Step off my property, Karen. Now. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried sharp enough to cut through the early morning fog. She didn't move. Clipboard tight to her chest, pastel sweater shining in my floodlights. She looked more like a cult leader than a neighbor. Behind her, two men in khaki vests shifted their weight, hands resting on tasers they didn't have the right to carry. "You're in violation," she said. "Under Oakwood Estates Code 7A, this property is subject to immediate seizure." I took one step closer. "The only code out here is mine." One of her men twitched. The goats bleated behind the barn. My floodlights hummed. Karen smiled, that thin, righteous kind of smile that only exists in people who've never been told no. "You think this ends with your fences?" she whispered. I leaned in just enough for her to see the mud on my boots. "No," I said. "It ends when you leave." And that was the moment, the exact breath before everything in Oakwood Estates went to hell. Before I tell you what happened that night, let me roll it back a bit. Have you ever worked so hard for peace that when you finally get it, you do not even trust it? That was me. I had spent years chasing freedom, only to find it sitting on my porch, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise over 120 acres of soil that finally felt like mine. The dogs at my feet, the goats out by the fence, the tractor humming when it felt like cooperating. The kind of life that does not make headlines because it is too quiet to care. No bosses, no alarms. No one breathing down my neck, just the sound of crickets and the whisper of wind through oak trees older than the town itself. That silence, it was not empty. It was earned. I thought I was done with conflict. I thought wrong. It began with a sign, white plastic, zip-tied to my fence post like a piece of garbage that thought it belonged there. Notice, property under review. Oakwood Estates HOA, compliance required. I stared at it for a full minute, blinking, waiting for the punchline. It never came, so I tore it down, tossed it in the burn barrel, and figured it was some bored kids playing pretend government. That was mistake number one, underestimating how far someone will go when they think a clipboard gives them power. The next day, mistake number two arrived in an SUV, the color of hospital walls. Out stepped a woman who looked like she ironed her empathy out that morning. Pink blouse, pressed khakis, mirrored sunglasses, and that same damned clipboard tucked under her arm like a weapon. "Hi there," she chirped. "I am Karen Simmons, HOA president for Oakwood Estates. I just wanted to personally welcome you to the neighborhood." I blinked at her. "The what now?" She smiled tighter, like someone explaining gravity to a child. "The Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association. We are a chartered community coalition focused on maintaining visual and environmental standards across all rural adjacent properties." I laughed. Could not help it. "Lady, this is farmland. The only visual standard out here is not crashing into a cow." She did not flinch. "Our bylaws cover fencing height, structure type, livestock ratios, and noise thresholds. We are in the awareness phase right now, but citations begin at the end of the month." "Citations?" I said, half choking on disbelief. "You cannot fine a goat for chewing the wrong patch of grass." "Oh, we do not fine the goats," she said sweetly. "Just their owners." Then she handed me a manila envelope labeled "Welcome Packet Action Required," and just like that, she turned on her orthopedic heel and left like she had just delivered a subpoena from God. I opened it right there on the porch. Page after page of fake regulations. Diagrams of my barn, aerial photos of my land, red circled images of fences from angles I did not even know existed. Apparently, my satellite dish was visible from something called the Southern View Corridor, and that was a visual obstruction. I did not throw it away. I burned it. The next morning, new signs appeared. Bigger ones this time. Laminated, zip-tied higher, one stapled to my barn door. Under enforcement review, violations pending. I tore them down again. This time, they came back with nails. And not just signs. Men. 2 of them. Matching khakis, vests, and fake patches that said HOA Patrol. They walked my fence line with walkie-talkies like they were scouting a war zone. One pointed at my tractor, whispered into his mic. That is when I stepped off the porch. Can I help you boys? The taller one straightened up, voice trembling like he had practiced it in front of a mirror. We are conducting a compliance sweep under Oakwood Estates HOA protocol. I walked closer. You got a badge? He cleared his throat. We operate under the Oakwood Estates Charter. Great, I said. Then you are trespassing under the Callahan Property Charter. Leave? They hesitated, exchanged looks, and finally backed away. One dropped his clipboard in the process. I picked it up. Inside, patrol maps, property routes, red X's over multiple parcels. Mine was labeled Alpha, High Resistance. That is when I realized this was not random. It was organized. That night, I called an old friend in town, Deputy Langston. He had never heard of an HOA in Oakwood Estates, but he had heard of Karen. Oh yes, he said. She tried to find the feed store last year, called it a rural noise disturbance. That is when it clicked. This woman was not just power tripping. She was building a system, one laminated sign at a time. So I started prepping. Not for war, for nonsense. Motion sensors, trail cams, floodlights. Nothing lethal, just deterrence. Enough to remind them this land bites back, because the next time they crossed that fence, they would not be walking away with a warning. They did not knock the next time. They came before dawn. I woke to the sound you never forget. Once you have heard it, the rhythm of trouble trying to stay quiet. The wind was still, the air too heavy. Then came the crunch on gravel, too soft for a truck, too heavy for a deer. I did not panic. I grabbed my boots, my mug, half full with stale coffee, the kind of reflex you do not lose after a few tours overseas. I turned off the kitchen light, stepped to the window, and saw them. 5 shadows moving in formation. No flashlights, radios in their ears, vests, khakis, headlamps, like discount commandos. 3 moved toward the east fence, right where my goat, Linda, slept like royalty. 2 others lingered near the front gate. Then I heard it, radio static. Then a whisper, Team Alpha in position. Begin sweep. Target is presumed armed but compliant under Phase 1. I almost laughed, because what else can you do when the neighborhood watch thinks they are raiding Osama bin Farmer? But inside, something shifted. That old hum came back, the one I had not felt since Kandahar. The weight behind the eyes, the quiet pulse that means it is about to start. I slipped on my jacket, thumbed the switch in the pocket. Not a weapon, a trigger. When the first one tripped the wire, I pressed it. Click, then boom. Not an explosion, just light. A wall of white poured across the property as the siren screamed. The barn lit up like Times Square on Judgment Day. 2 of them hit the dirt. One dove behind the trough. Another ran straight into Linda's pen. Bad move. Linda rammed him in the thigh so hard he flipped. Then she just stood there, staring at him like she wanted an explanation. I stepped onto the porch, coffee in hand. "Good morning, gentlemen," I said. "Planning to announce yourselves, or were you hoping for the element of surprise?" Clipboard guy straightened. "We are acting under HOA Emergency Code 7A to seize non-compliant property." "Emergency Code 7A?" I said, raising an eyebrow. "You make that up in a coloring book?" He did not blink. "We are empowered by community vote to enforce property value security." I sighed. "You are about to enforce something, all right, but it will not be property values." And that is when gravel crunched again. Tires, not theirs. Red and blue lights cut through the fog like divine intervention. Sheriff Langston's cruiser rolled up slow. Clipboard guy froze. "Abort!" Too late. Langston stepped out, squinting at the chaos, sirens, goats, and 5 fake soldiers face down in the dirt. "Callahan," he said flatly. "What the hell is this?" "Pre-dawn theater," I said. Opening act, HOA SWAT team. He sighed, stepped forward, and said, "Hands where I can see them. Drop the clipboards." One of them mumbled, "We are acting under civilian compliance jurisdiction." Langston ripped the badge off his vest. "Buddy, this says Compliance Officer, Tier 2. You are lucky it does not say Mall Cop." He held up a binder they had brought. Oakwood Estates Compliance Authority. Internal Codex. Color-coded. Laminated. Charts, ranks, violation classes. Langston read aloud. Class 1 violation. Fence misalignment. Class 2. Unauthorized rooster activity. Class 3. Hostile resident behavior. He snapped the book shut. "I have seen cults with fewer rules." Then he looked at me, and I said it before he could. "Karen." Langston nodded slowly. "She is behind all of this?" "Yes," I said. "And I think this is just the beginning." He flipped through the binder again, found a list tucked inside. Names. My neighbors. Mine was highlighted in red. Obstructionist. High threat. Others crossed out. Langston exhaled. "You know any of these?" "Yes," I said. 2 sold out this year. 1 just vanished." He stared at the list, then back at me. "This is not just HOA cosplay," he said quietly. "This is coordinated. Targeted." And standing there in the cold morning light, surrounded by fallen clipboards and shaking men, I realized something terrifying. Oakwood Estates was not just a neighborhood. It was a blueprint. Langston stayed long after the fake patrol was hauled off. He stood on my porch, flipping through that cursed binder, shaking his head like he was staring at a bad dream printed on glossy paper. "I will call in a fraud investigator," he said finally, "maybe even the feds. But you should know something. Karen is not done. She is doubling down. I did not need to be told." By the time the sun rose, I already knew she would strike again, and sure enough, that evening, a certified letter landed in my mailbox. The return address? Oakwood Estates Community Compliance Board. Except there was no such board. Karen had invented it. I tore it open at the kitchen counter. Inside were 4 pages of pure insanity, legal gibberish, half threats, half theater. She was suing me. Claims: hostile disruption of a sanctioned community action, obstruction of volunteer enforcement personnel, intentional interference with cooperative land reclamation. The language was bureaucratic poison, cold, clinical, and meaningless. But the last page made my stomach turn. It listed names, every property owner in Oakwood Estates, and next to one name, scrawled in neat black pen, was a word that hit me harder than any warrant could: informant. It was not just anyone. It was a man I knew, a friend. Someone who helped me raise my barn last summer, who drank my beer and played cards on my porch while the sunset dipped behind the oak trees. They say power corrupts, but they never tell you how quickly it happens when the only thing standing between someone and control is a clipboard. Karen was not backing down. She was building something, a movement, an echo chamber, a miniature state with her at the top. It started small. Flyers. She did not just mail them, she planted them, like landmines. Printed in grayscale, clipped to plastic stakes, stabbed into the ground along the road leading into Oakwood Estates. Each one had a drone photo of my property. Zone B, non-compliant. High risk. Underneath, bullet points. Unauthorized livestock. 3 goats. 1 rooster unregistered. Illegal fencing configuration. Non-standard post spacing. Documented verbal hostility toward enforcement officers. And the worst part? Subject has refused all attempts at reintegration. Neighbors are advised to avoid unsanctioned contact. She had weaponized social exile. At first, I laughed. Then, I noticed the silence. Neighbors who used to wave stopped making eye contact. The man at the feed store suddenly upped my prices. People I had shared 4th of July barbecue with pretended not to see me at the diner. One morning, I found a message pinned to my gate, printed on bright yellow cardstock. "We support order." We support standards. If you are not part of the solution, you are part of the risk. I stood there, reading it over and over, my hands trembling, not from fear, but fury. This was not a feud anymore. This was a regime. A few days later, she held a community meeting. No permits, no chairs, just a fold-out table, a borrowed microphone, and a poster board that said, "Emergency Compliance Briefing, Tier 3 Response." I watched from across the street, arms folded. About 15 people gathered, some curious, some nervous, others already wearing bright orange HOA safety vests. Karen adjusted the mic and began, "We are under siege," she said, "and it is coming from within." She held up one of the flyers, the one with my property photo. "This resident has refused compliance for 3 consecutive review cycles. He has verbally threatened officers, destroyed official signage, and disrupted community unity." Then she pointed directly at me. Her finger cut through the air like a judge delivering a sentence. "He thinks he is untouchable," she said, her voice trembling with righteous fury. "But no one is above the rules." Some people nodded, others clapped. And I realized it was not just her anymore. She had believers. When it ended, I walked closer, just enough for my voice to carry. "You call a goat screaming at 6 a.m. a security threat?" Karen ignored me. She turned back to the crowd. "Effective immediately, Oakwood Estates will initiate community isolation protocol." The crowd murmured. "Residents are discouraged from contact with non-compliant individuals. No favors, no support, no engagement." And just like that, with one microphone and a borrowed PA system, she erased me from the community I helped build. That night, I found something new in my mailbox. A laminated notice. Resident classification. Tier 3. Critical non-compliant. Below it, in neat bullet points, remove livestock within 72 hours. Paint barn neutral gray. Attend reintegration seminar. Submit apology statement to board. The seminar's location? Karen's garage. One of the listed sessions was titled, "Silent Fences, How Your Property Speaks for You." I laughed until it hurt. Then I realized it was not funny. By the next week, 2 of my trail cameras went dark. I thought it was just battery failure, until I checked the wires. Cut clean, precise. Langston came out that night, flashlight in hand. "You think it is her?" he asked. "She is the only one who knows where I hid these," I said. He knelt, ran his fingers along the wire. "This is not vandalism. It is surveillance." I nodded, and I think she is escalating. Around midnight, I spotted a white sedan parked 2 properties down. No movement, no headlights, just idling. I watched it through binoculars. Tinted windows, no plates, no decals. When I stepped off the porch with a flashlight, the engine roared to life and the car peeled out. I caught part of the plate before it vanished into the dark. Community Horizon Outreach. I looked it up later. Nonprofit. Fake address. Director, Karen Simmons. That is when I knew this was not just power hunger. It was organized surveillance. And then came the night that broke something inside me. It started with a whimper. Max, my border collie, 8 years old, the smartest thing I have ever met, was crying behind the ATV. I found him shaking, one paw bleeding. When I touched it, he yelped. Glass shards embedded deep. I followed the trail back to the barn. Under the rear door, a scatter of green-brown glass, jagged, deliberate, half buried in straw. Someone had smashed a bottle, spread the shards, and left it there. Langston arrived 20 minutes later. He crouched, flashlight low, studying the ground. "This was not an accident," he said quietly. "It is a message." I did not reply. I just held Max, whispering, "It is okay, buddy. I have got you." But in my head, something cold settled in place. The next morning, I stopped playing defense. I went public. I uploaded everything: video of the fake raid, the bogus seizure warrants, the flyers, the re-education seminars, even photos of Max's injury. I captioned it, "When the HOA thinks they are the FBI." By nightfall, it had 100,000 views. By morning, 300,000. People shared their own stories. Rural homeowners from across the state describing identical tactics, fake compliance officers, citations, community outreach letters, even false legal claims. It was a pattern. And suddenly, Karen was not the predator anymore. She was prey. Her defenders disappeared overnight. Half her compliance team quit. The other half deleted their social media. But Karen did not hide. She came to me. No SUV, no sunglasses, just a manila folder. She did not knock. She just stood there, calm, almost pitiful. "Do you think this is about goats?" she asked. I said nothing. "Do you think this ends with me?" Still nothing. "You have kicked something you do not understand," she whispered, handing me the folder. Then she walked away. Inside, printed emails, memos, an official-looking document labeled Regional Initiative, Rural Behavioral Management, Phase 2. It had government seals, names I recognized, agencies I used to work with. I did not touch it again for 6 hours. Not because I was afraid, because I already knew what it meant. When I finally opened it, the words blurred. This was not just paperwork. It was a mirror. The header, Rural Behavioral Management, Phase 2. It was a program I had heard whispers about years ago, designed to stabilize post-conflict communities overseas, change the signs, change the rules, change how people talked about their neighbors. I had seen it before. I had helped build parts of it. And now, it had found its way to Oakwood Estates. Langston showed up again. I slid the folder across the table without a word. He flipped through it, page by page. "Where did you get this?" "Karen gave it to me." "She gave it to you?" "She said I had kicked something I could not stop." He went silent. Then he called the county attorney. Within hours, she arrived. All business, all fire. They scanned every page, verified the seals, cross-checked the headers. Real. Every one of them. She looked at me. "You know this program?" I nodded. I knew the people who built it. She stared, processing. "Were you in on it?" "No," I said, "but I was in the room." The next morning, Oakwood Estates became a crime scene. The warrant came down fast. Charges: fraud, harassment, impersonating an officer, wire theft, surveillance. Langston and 2 federal agents rolled up to Karen's house just after sunrise. No response to knocking. Curtains shifted. Finally, she opened the door, clipboard in hand like it was a shield. "Do you have a warrant?" Langston held it up. "Right here." "You are making a mistake," she said flatly. "You first," he replied, stepping past her. Her study looked normal at first, until they found the false wall panel. Behind it, a hidden office, a narrow room filled floor to ceiling with binders, each labeled with chilling precision: Resident Tier Guide, Compliant Scripts, Corrective Language Index, Psychological Reinforcement Tactics, Asset Conversion Models, Phase 3 Strategy Outline. Langston flipped through one labeled Tier Guide. Inside were detailed notes on me: wake-up time, feeding schedule, rarely seen with visitors, pattern rating, defiant, autonomous, vigilant. He looked at me. "They were profiling you." "Not just me," I said. The other binders confirmed it. 6 more residents, each categorized. Some marked compliant, some exit achieved. One labeled pending disruption. That resident had moved out last month. On the back wall hung a large map, 3 counties, color-coded pins, red for active, blue for compliant, black for relocation encouraged. Langston stared. "This is not HOA management." He turned to me. "This is psychological warfare. They bagged everything. The county attorney filed charges before nightfall. Karen's lawyer tried to spin it. A community experiment in grassroots cohesion, he called it." Langston laughed once, the kind of laugh that sounds like a door closing. Call it what you want, he said. It is a cult with office supplies. That night, someone knocked on my gate. It was Jerry, my neighbor who had stopped waving weeks ago. He looked older, worn down. I did not know it would go this far, he said. Did you believe her? He did not answer, just stared at the dirt. She told us if we did not help, we would be next. I nodded once, closed the gate behind him. 2 days later, the county cracked the last hard drive they found in her office. What they saw blew the case wide open. Because it was not just about me. It was never just about Oakwood Estates. It was a field test, and I was the variable. When the county cracked that last hard drive from Karen's office, I thought we had finally reached the end of this nightmare. But I was wrong. That drive was not closure. It was a door. And behind it, another shadow waited. Langston called me 2 days later, his voice heavier than usual. Callahan, he said, you need to come down to the station. You are going to want to see this. I drove into town, the road still littered with the ghosts of those laminated flyers, half torn, half buried in dust. The sheriff's office was quiet, too quiet, like everyone was waiting for a storm they could already smell. Langston met me at the door, holding a flash drive in a plastic bag. This came from the encrypted folder we found in Karen's office, he said. The one labeled Phase 4 Contingency. Contingency? I repeated. As in, what happens if they fail? He nodded slowly. We decrypted most of it. You need to see this. Inside the briefing room, the projector hummed to life. On the screen, a grid of files appeared. Video thumbnails, audio logs, GPS maps. Each labeled with names, dates, and one recurring phrase. Operational Rural Management, Tier 4. Langston clicked the first video. Drone footage of my property, my house, my barn, even my porch. Timestamps from 2 weeks ago, and one from the night of the fake raid. Then another file. Behavioral pattern tracking. Callahan. My voice, recorded from my own porch camera. My daily routine, transcribed line by line. Every sound, every conversation, logged. It was not surveillance, it was profiling. They wanted to study you, Langston said quietly. Not just monitor you. Study me for what? I asked. He clicked to the next file. On-screen text scrolled like a government training module. Objective: identify autonomous, influence-resistant behavioral archetypes in rural population clusters. I felt my throat tighten. This was not about property disputes, I said. It was about psychology. Langston exhaled. Phase 1 was infiltration. Phase 2, conditioning. Phase 3, pressure. And Phase 4, he hesitated. Correction, I said for him. He nodded. Correction. That night, I did not sleep. Every sound outside felt amplified. The wind, the creak of the barn, even the slow ticking of the clock. I kept thinking about Max, my dog, and how they had hurt him to test my reaction. They had not wanted revenge. They had wanted data. And that meant one thing. They were not done. At 4:12 morning, the drone came back. Different model this time, smaller, faster, quieter. It did not hover. It swept across the barn roof, buzzed the tree line, and vanished. 15 minutes later, I found it. A circle burned into the ground near the north fence, perfectly symmetrical, black paint, with 2 slashed lines crossing the center, an X. Langston saw the photos later that day. He went pale. Same mark we found near Clearwater, he said, on the properties of other non-compliant residents. So what does it mean? He did not answer right away. It means, he said finally, they are coming again. They did not knock this time either. No headlights, no engines, no sound. Just 3 shadows emerging from the woods. My motion sensors picked them up before my eyes did. 3 human heat signatures, stationary for 20 minutes, then moving fast toward the house. 1 had a clipboard, 2 had rifles. Real ones. They moved like they had done this before. Tactical spacing, hand signals, coordination. But something about them was wrong. Too stiff. Too synchronized. Not trained soldiers. programmed ones. I locked the barn, shut down my laptop, and stepped out onto the porch. The night air felt electric. I could smell the metallic tang of adrenaline before the first one spoke. "We are here under seizure protocol," clipboard guy said. "Do you think this is legal?" I asked. He did not blink. "You have failed to comply with re-education notices. Your property and assets are subject to forfeiture under Emergency Clause B9. I laughed once, sharp and humorless. "B9? You people just keep inventing laws in alphabet soup." He took another step. "You have been designated as a primary resistance node. You are in violation of—" I cut him off. "You know what a primary resistance node is?" Silence. "It is the last thing standing before everything you built collapses." They moved closer. I could see their faces now, clean-shaven, glassy-eyed, and disturbingly calm. The one on the left kept adjusting his grip on the rifle. The one on the right kept scanning the trees like he was waiting for backup. Clipboard guy raised his hand. "You are outnumbered. Do not make this hard." I smiled. "Oh, you have no idea how hard I can make it." I stepped back and pressed the trigger on my watch. A hiss beneath the gravel. Then, click. Steel barricades shot up from the driveway with a satisfying clang. Floodlights flared red, then white, then red again, strobing hard enough to make shadows crawl. The field lit up like a battlefield. Clipboard guy flinched, shielding his eyes. The jittery one panicked and raised his rifle. That was his mistake. 2 flashbangs detonated from the deck corners. No shrapnel, just light and thunder. They dropped instantly, disoriented. The sirens kicked in next, high-pitched, oscillating frequencies bouncing off the barn walls, designed to scramble spatial perception. I had built that system years ago to scare off equipment thieves. Now it was war paint. The twitchy guy staggered forward, rifle limp. I rushed him, twisted the barrel out of his hands, and drove his shoulder into the dirt. He did not even resist, eyes glassy, pupils dilated. The calm one bolted for the trees, but froze when red and blue lights washed over him. Langston's cruiser. No siren, no drama, just a spotlight and a drawn sidearm. "Drop the weapons!" he barked. Clipboard guy hesitated. Langston fired a warning shot into the dirt between his boots. A puff of dust. A heartbeat of silence. Then they dropped everything. Backup arrived within minutes. 7 in total. 3 in cuffs, 4 emerging from the woods with their hands raised. All wearing identical vests, all carrying fake IDs. Langston held one up. "Enforcement Tier 1, he read. "Phase 4 certified." I exhaled. "Do you know what that means?" He looked at me. "Yes," he said. "It means this was never about property. It is about people." At the station, they processed the group. Most stayed silent. But one, the quiet one, started talking just before they loaded him into the cruiser. He looked at me through the bars and smiled. "You think this ends here?" he said softly. "You think this was about land?" I did not answer. "It is about pattern disruption," he continued. "You are not the enemy, Callahan. You are the prototype." Then he winked as they shut the door. Back at the property, I sat on the porch long after dawn. The field was torn up from boot prints and spent flashbang shells. The goats were silent, even Linda. Max lay beside me, head on my boot, tail flicking whenever a car passed on the distant road. Langston joined me a few hours later. He did not say anything at first, just looked around at the mess. "They will come again," he said finally. "I know," I replied. "You got a plan?" I nodded toward the last uncracked drive sitting on my table inside. It was labeled with one word, Callahan. He raised an eyebrow. "You going to open it?" "Not yet." He waited. "What are you waiting for?" I stared out across the fields, the morning mist curling off the grass. Leverage. The drive sat there for 4 days. 4 long, silent days where every sound felt like a test of patience. I knew the moment I opened it, the world would split in two, before and after, and there would be no going back. Langston offered to process it through evidence systems, but I refused. "If they spent this much time watching me," I said, "then they deserve to see me watching back." On the 5th day, I plugged it in. The screen flashed once, then a logo appeared, stark white on black. OPRM, Operational Rural Management. Not HOA, not county, not state, federal. I froze, because I recognized it. 12 years ago, I had written part of that framework. Back then, it was a theoretical model, a post-instability recalibration strategy, designed to monitor and reshape communities that resisted centralized control after conflict. I had written about soft influence and behavioral correction through environmental authority. They had taken my words and turned them into a blueprint for domestic manipulation, and Karen, she was not the architect. She was the instrument. The drive had 4 folders. Phase 1, infiltration. Phase 2, conditioning. Phase 3, pressure. Phase 4, correction. And inside that last folder, a file with my name. Subject, Callahan. Classification, autonomous. Strategic, influence resistant. They had drone footage, porch conversations, even old service records. They had mapped my patterns, my habits, my temperament. Every line item was clinical, detached, inhuman. Then came the recording, my own voice, from years ago, discussing outlier management and containment of defiant cells. It was me, training people to handle men like me. They had not just turned my ideas against me, they had made me the test case. The last file was called Message Tier Alpha. I clicked it. Karen appeared on screen, calm, composed, smiling like she was hosting a Sunday sermon. "If you are watching this," she began, "then you have seen the truth. I did not start this, but I believed in it. Still do." She leaned closer to the camera. "People like you, Callahan, you do not obey. You disrupt. That is why we needed you. You showed us what resistance looks like and how to break it." She smiled again. Then the screen cut to black. I sat there for a long time, staring at the reflection of my own face on the dark screen. Not broken, not angry, just steady. Langston arrived an hour later. He looked at the drive on the table, then at me. "You open it?" I nodded. "How bad?" "Bad enough." He did not press. "What now?" I stood up. I ended it. I did not go to the press. I went to the source. Filed a federal whistleblower complaint, redacted the neighbors' names, named the contractors, attached every file. Then I hit publish. Within 48 hours, it was everywhere. Former employees came forward, oversight hearings were announced. The OPRM program officially decommissioned again. Karen was indicted on federal charges this time. But paperwork does not kill an ideology, it just buries it until someone else digs it up. Now things are quiet. Too quiet. The goats still yell at sunrise. Max still limps but runs like he means it. The barn stands. The fences hold. But sometimes, when a truck slows near the gate, Max growls. I do not tell him to stop, because deep down, I know, it never really stops. I still get messages. From strangers. From people in towns I have never heard of. They tell me the same thing every time. It started here too. They called it a volunteer coalition. They said it was for safety. They ask me what to do. And I always tell them the same thing. Do not wait for someone else to fight your battle. Because if they have already drawn the map, you are already on it. A week later, Langston called again. We decrypted one last file, he said. It was buried deep, encrypted twice. You better sit down. It was an email. No sender, no signature, just one line. Reassignment, pilot zone, Midwest beta. No attachments, no explanation, just coordinates. Somewhere colder. Somewhere flatter, somewhere easier to disappear. Phase 4 did not end here. It just moved on, because they thought I was the variable. the disruption, the glitch in their system, but I was not. I was the proof. The proof that even when they watch, study, and try to shape every part of who you are, there is still something they cannot program: will. And in Oakwood Estates, for one brief violent season, that was enough.